Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is the #1 place you can come to find disability inclusion education. I'm here to help you understand how to be more disability inclusive and how to teach your kiddos how to be more disability inclusive. My name's Tina Beauvais, and I have a daughter, Noel, who is diagnosed with muscular dystrophy. She is 12 years old, and she is a fun and spunky little girl. But definitely I have learned a lot through having a child who has grown up living in a wheelchair and who has lots of medical equipment and lots of things that make her look physically different. So today I wanted to talk to you about a question I get asked a lot, and it's about nursing. So my daughter Noel has 20 hours of nursing a day, which means I have somebody here in my house helping take care of her 20 hours a day. It's not uncommon or unlikely for a kiddo like Noel, who has a trach and is on a ventilator, to need nursing care. Now, when Noel was first in the hospital at 2 years old, when she first got her trach, we were told that she could not leave the hospital without 24-hour nursing care. And I had known 2 families in there who had been waiting for a year just for nurses. Like, their kiddos were fine and ready to go home, but the hospital would not let them leave without a 24-hour nurse in their house. Now, when I heard that, I was like, I'm not staying. Like, I'm going, I'm taking Noel, and I'm gonna leave. And they were like, what? You can do that? Like you can do that? And I'm like, well, I'm going to. Like, she's my daughter. I'm just going to figure out how to take care of her. Because at the time, before Noel was sick, I was her full-time caregiver. And I didn't work because I couldn't, she required so much. So I'm like, I'm living in a hospital. I can't leave this place. I can't do anything. Why would I continue to live here when I can do the same thing with her at home? Is it going to be hard? Absolutely. But can I do it? Absolutely. So we left. We were the first family to ever leave the hospital without full-time nursing. And yes, it was very hard. It was consuming. I mean, that first night when I left the hospital and was having to work on a ventilator, was it hard? Yes. The first night I left the hospital and I was in charge of that ventilator alone, that was terrifying, especially because I had only listened to the sounds of the ventilator because it makes breathing in sounds and all these different noises and stuff. I'd only listened to them inside of a hospital environment. So the second I left and I was in a regular bedroom listening, I was terrified. The whole time I'm like, oh my gosh, is she breathing right? Is this right? It was very hard. And I did it on my own for at least 9 months. And I had to do all of her care. I had to do all of her trach changes, her circuit changes, everything. But the thing was, I wasn't living in a hospital. I was living at my parents' house and I had some extra help, but I wasn't living in a hospital. So it was worth it. It wasn't until my husband and I, Dustin, met, and we met when Noel was 2 years old, that we finally got some nursing. So Dustin and I met in June, and then we got married in October, and that was when we first got a nurse. So our wedding was the first night that we actually had a nurse. So it was the first time I had left Noel alone and was separate from her, which was a little nerve-wracking, but also a little rewarding. And so the next morning, we had planned to go shopping and just do things. We weren't going to have like a honeymoon by any means, because when we got married, we already had 3 kids. So it wasn't, we weren't having some big honeymoon or something. It was just a night away. But the next morning, I got a call at 10 a.m. from the paramedics. And I'm like, what? And they're like, we have Noel. We have to take her to the hospital. Her nurse called us. She didn't know what was going on with her. And I'm like thinking, no, they can't take her. Like, you can't take Noel to the hospital without me, because with kids with trachs and who are in ventilators, that's not common. Hospital people don't see it commonly. And I'm like, no, I have to be there. And I had to call the chief firefighter and tell him, you cannot take Noel to the hospital until I get to the ambulance. And he was like, ma'am, we don't usually do this. And I'm like, I know. Well, either you're going to have to take her an hour away to the closest children's hospital, or you're going to have to wait till I get there. So sure enough, they waited. I got there within 15 minutes. And the thing is, Noel only needed a trach change. But the poor nurse had never been alone with a patient, so she didn't know that that's what she needed to do, or that she could do it alone, because in a hospital setting, you always have lots of people. So that was my first experience with nursing. Was a little nerve-wracking. Here I thought somebody was going to help, and then unfortunately she needed extra help. But that was the beginning of us having some nursing care. So in the beginning, we had a few hours a week, and it was pretty much that way for the next couple years. And it was until I had my daughter, Macy, who is now 6 years old. And with Macy, I was trying to not need a C-section, but I ultimately needed a C-section. And after the fact, after I had her, it was like, oh wow, I can't lift Noel at all. Like, I can't do any of this. And so that was when we got full-time nursing. So from the time Macy's been born, 6 years now, we have had full-time nursing. That means every day we have a nurse in our house from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then another nurse comes in from 6 p.m. until 2 a.m. And that is a thing. It is a thing. I mean, it is a blessing. It is amazing. These nurses have provided care for Noel that is exceptional. I know that Noel is doing as well as she is in life because of her nurses, because they just take such great care of her, and they are amazing. She is so happy. She absolutely loves her nurses. On the other side of it, though, imagine trying to raise a family and have a marriage and all of that with somebody constantly in your house. I mean, somebody's always listening. Somebody's always there. It is definitely challenging. And there are times and moments when, you know, the best version of you does not come out, and you know somebody else is listening to you and hearing you, and it definitely is a character building experience for you. I definitely have, you know, had to think about that. And it's interesting how much it's impacted how I've raised my younger two, and probably not always in the best way. There's probably been times when I could have done better and I didn't. But you do the best that you can. The other thing I wanted to tell you about nursing is I was able to finally leave Noel at one point and take a cruise. Now, that's a huge thing, I think, for any mom with a child with special needs, let alone a daughter who lives on life support 24 hours a day. So I had Noel when I was 22, and then Dustin and I got married at 25. So there was a lot of responsibility for a very young person. The first trip that we took was when we were 28 years old, and we went on a cruise. Now, it was terrifying and scary leaving, but the thing is, it was the best thing I ever did, because when I was on that cruise ship in the middle of the ocean, with no way to get a hold of anybody and no way for anybody to get a hold of me, it was like, for that moment, I just had to let go of the control, and I had to be like, wow, life is going to go on with or without me, and ultimately, I'm not in control of all of this. And what a great lesson, right? I mean, that's true for all of our children. At some point, with all of our children, we have to let go of that control, because ultimately, we're not going to carry them the rest of their lives, and we're not going to be the sole person to take care of them. And isn't that the point? Isn't that what we're trying to do? We're trying to raise children that one day will live without us, that one day will be able to be taken care of without us. So that was such a huge moment in my life, and such a huge, character building experience, such a huge just point of growing up and being like, okay, all right, somebody else is going to have to help me, and I can't do it all on my own. And that is just the reality of my parenting of Noel, is that I can't do it alone. I have to have help. And I think that's true of anybody, right? We all need help. We all need help parenting our children and taking care of them. Taking care of kids is a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a huge responsibility. And so we need to find those people who can help come alongside of us and help us in this. And as much as sometimes nursing is hard and it's a challenge for us, it's a true blessing, and I am beyond blessed that we have it. I know that Noel's life is amazing because of it. She hasn't been in the hospital in 6 years, which is a miracle, and I have to hand it to her nurses. So I just wanted to share with you guys, a little bit about what life's like with a nurse. So nursing has been amazing. It's sometimes bittersweet, but definitely a blessing. If you guys have any questions about what life is like with a nurse, or if you have a nurse yourself or you're gonna get one and you have questions or anything, definitely write them below, because I would love to talk with you about it and help you in any way I can. Also, if you guys want to get my 5 tips for disability inclusion sheet, there's a link down below and you can grab that. Hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for watching.